welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast, PODMAS edition. I am your host, Maxine, and we're on episode 3. Let's get into this show called The White Lotus. My God, today. Okay, I'm going to try to talk about it without talking about it too much because I know some of you may not have watched it yet. Freckles Bay. Get it together. No pressure. No, okay. This show, y'all, is only 6 episodes. And I'm actually very disappointed because I thought it was longer. And I want to look back to season 1 and see if it was only 6 episodes. No, 7 episodes. Yeah, 7 episodes. That's literally the 7th episode came on last night on Sunday. And that was it. That was the season finale. Like, pero like what? What is this? What is this, Charles? Anyway, so I was definitely disappointed to see that it wrapped up, but considering how well written the show is, y'all, I don't even know where to begin. Like, you know, people ask you, what is the show about? It's like, I don't even know what to say. Just watch it. Like, I don't know what it's about, but it's good. I think that's enough. Like, my reaction is enough. Like, it's about so many different things, but I think it's also, like, at least for this season, there was a lot of gaslighting that took place. And for those who may not be familiar with gaslighting, you know, this is like the one of the top words of 2022, right? Gaslighting, narcissist. Oh, he's a narcissist. She's a narcissist. It's like, bitch, not everyone's a narcissist. What else? But I definitely had 2 experiences with 2 different narcissists. So I definitely think they're narcissists. I'm not a doctor or diagnosed clinician, whatever the fuck it is. But they're fucking narcissists. If I had to write a book. Back to the show, Maxine. Anyway, the White Lotus, y'all. It's on HBO Max. And, I mean, at this point, they should be sponsoring me. This is ridiculous. But, I mean, where do I begin? Like, I think there's just so much to talk about here. There's a lot of gaslighting that takes place in this show. And for this term, it's basically when you're telling me that it's not raining outside, yet I'm literally in the rain getting drenched on. But you're convincing me it's not raining. What are you talking about? It's all in your head. Like, you're crazy, man. And you convinced me so well that I'm starting to question my own sanity. Like, maybe it isn't raining. Maybe I'm just imagining this. Like, what is wet? What is water? Do I feel it? You know, like, you really start to question yourself. And there's a lot of that takes place in this season at the very least. Like, there's a lot of gaslighting. There's a lot of there's a character named Albie who is the son of, anyway, he's the youngest of the generation of men who are on this trip together as part of a vacation. And he's like the typical Gen X, or is it Gen Z? I can't remember which one, but basically the one below millennial. And that is the class of people who are very much into the whole woke propaganda and, you know, just thinking that there's no room for misogyny. And I mean, sure, there isn't room for misogyny. I agree. But like, not every fucking woman who professes that they're victims, you know, of whatever is telling the fucking truth. And you see that play out in this season. You see a woman who Albie falls for, and he thinks she's a damsel in distress, and come to find out that even though we knew all along that she was full of shit, but he just wanted to be this like justice warrior, this righteous man who stands up against injustice against women. And it's like, nigga, you got played. Shut the fuck up. Like, you know, and then he come to terms with that realization towards the end of the season. And I just was very happy to see how foolish he realized he was. But anyway, You see that, right? So that's one facet of the storyline. And what's so great about this show is there's so many different storylines. There's so many different things that's happening that is all engaging at the same time. Like, no actor, no storyline has been lackluster. There's this woman who's the director of the resort. Okay, let me give you guys the basis. So the show is basically a group of people who happen to vacation at the same resort, and the resort is called the White Lotus. Now, maybe there's something deeper about the meaning of that name. I haven't really cared to dive deep into that. Why is it called the White Lotus? I don't know. But nonetheless, they're all at this same resort, and their lives somewhat commingle, but for the most part, they all just happen to share the same experience or similar experiences, or not even experience. They just all happen to share the experience of vacationing at this resort. And they all have their different nuances, storylines that may or may not commingle. Whatever the case is, it's so freaking good. So you have that, right? So that's the basis. And there's multiple storylines to follow, and it's not confusing, right? It's not like, what's going on with this storyline? You know how the soap operas, first you'll only focus on like the grandparents, and then the next episode you'll get a dig deeper into the young children. It's so well done, y'all. The writing is superb. The aesthetic is beautiful. And it really makes you think about how, like, when you're on vacation, you have more of this idea or this perception of freedom, right? Like, you really think you're not living in the same world that you were in before you landed here at this resort. So I just find it to be very hilarious how instantly you land at a tropical resort, a tropical destination, and you become totally different than who you were prior to this landing. Mind you, just like 6-hour difference. And anyway, so this takes place in Italy, and I'm wondering, I think prostitution is obviously, well, we all know prostitution is the oldest profession in the books. So I'm just curious to know how prevalent it is in Italy. But I think that's probably a silly question, because I'm sure it is, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. Prostitution is everywhere. Prostitution is down the street from not only where I live, but where I work. Hello? Hello. There's a hooker right there. Okay, so what else do I love about the show? So there's this couple who are at the resort together with another couple. They arrive together. They plan to vacation together for the next few days at this resort. And you could tell there's some contention between all of them. And the men, so it's a husband and a wife and another husband and a wife. So both heterosexual couples, thank God. I'm not trying to deal with no extra shit. But anyway, it just wasn't complicated. There's definitely some examples of homosexual activity, which is fine. Look, I know I may come off like a homophobe. I'm not. I'm really not. I'm just like, I'm a truth teller, okay? And it's a trans stuff I just like. What the fuck are we talking about? And it's the men acting like they're women and trying to come to you as a woman, but they're not women. Like, please shut the fuck up. Like, close the door. That's what I don't rock with. But, like, you gay. Like, we could be, like, that's fine. Like, I got gay friends. White people be like, I got black friends. Well, what if they do have black friends? Like, are they still racist? Does not count for something. Come on. Like, not everyone who says that is willfully obtuse to what they're saying. I think it's a point to be made, right? Like, hey, I do have diverse friend groups and I see them all as equals. But we're not equal. You will never know how it is to be black. You will never know how to be in this. Like, can can we just get along? Where was I? Get back to it, Maxine. Okay, The White Lotus is an amazing show. It's on HBO Max. Please check it out, and we'll discuss. I don't want to say too much, but I'll just say one more thing. There's okay. So the couples that is on vacation together. There's some contention between the two. The men, they know each other because they went to college together and they roomed together for a year or two while on campus. And one of the guys, he recently turned into this tech just superstar. I guess he sold some share of his company, whatever the case is. And he he still is a nerd, but now he's a nerd with money. So his credential is higher, and it's pretty cool. Anyway, so the other guy, he would always kind of sun him in a way like, I'm always get your bitches, right? Like, I don't care how much money you got, I'm gonna get your bitches. And you know what? I don't see enough black people on the show. That's a good. And look, I'm the last person to be like, oh, there's not enough black representation. A good show is a good show, but I just thought about that. I think only in last season was just one black character, and she was she was a masseuse. And she was played by, I forgot her name, but the big girl from Insecure. Sorry, that's the only best I could describe her. The only best way I could describe her. But anyway, so what happened? Anyway, so I'm saying too much. Watch the show, and we'll discuss another time. But okay, I guess what I really wanted to just dive into just real quickly is just how sometimes you may find yourself in these sexual situations with people whom you're not attracted to, yet you're in it because of the thrill of it. And that just got me to thinking, because there's a couple of scenes in The White Lotus in which there's this character. Her name is, oh my gosh, I freaking hate her character because I think she's so freaking insufferable. But I'm going to just say her name real quick so I could just have a point of reference. But let me just pull it up as I'm trying to talk about it. Okay, so anyway, so this character, she is insufferable. She always have like, I don't know, I think she has attachment issues. Okay, her name is Tanya. There we go. Tanya, she's played by this actress named Jennifer Coolidge, and she just always looks just disheveled, just lost on drugs, and she shared that she has abandonment issues and she doesn't make right decisions, and she's very much codependent, all these things. Anyway, so what I bring her up? Okay, so there's a couple of scenes in the show in which she is in these sexual high intensity scenes with different men, and these men are fairly attractive men. And she is not, I don't think she's attractive. Now, look, she's a real woman. Like, she has a fat suit on. Like, this is really how she looks like, so I guess I'm shooting at her. But the point is, her character makes her look even more undesirable because she is just so disheveled and just weird. So she is getting a lot of play from these fine men. And I was watching these scenes of her getting eaten out, of her getting fucked, like all these things. And I'm like, how the fuck did she land these fine niggas? Like, what's going on? And it just hit me that I think, I don't want to say what really is the reason behind it, because that'll definitely be a spoiler. So I guess that will be the answer to my question, or to my wonder. But prior to me finishing the show, I thought to myself, well, I think sometimes when you have an unattractive woman attracting fairly attractive men, it's more so because of maybe the thrill of just the difference in looks and in appearance that the woman presents, right? Like, oh, she looks so different from the type of women that I'm typically attracted to, or the type of woman that society says I should be attracted to. I want to see what this is about. Is the pussy still good? Like some people just have these fetishes for unattractive women or women who are just, according to society standards, deemed unattractive, right? Or women who may be overly, weighted, right? Or just women who are just not as attractive as, I guess, the average woman, or whatever the case is. I'm not saying you should look at her like that, but I'm just saying, just society wise, or like these standards that we put out, she is not an attractive woman. And to see her pull off so many of these attractive men, or just so much attention, and she just, not only is she, I just find her so freaking, she's just so annoying. I'm so happy the ending is the ending, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm just so happy the ending is the ending. But she is just very much fucking weird. Anyway, so on top of her looking the way that she does, her behavior, her personality, just overall her whole character is just even more unattractive, that I was just taken aback to how much of these fine men she's pulling. So, or how many of these fine men she's pulling. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I feel like there's something to that. I think there's something to explore with that. Like sometimes you may find yourself in bed with someone whom you're not really attracted to, but hey, you just kind of found yourself there. Like, I mean, I can't really say I've experienced, oh no, I definitely have. Yeah, years ago, God. But I think for the most part, that wasn't like a fetish thing. Like, I feel like historically I've dated well put together men. Like, no one that I've been with have ever been out of shape. Now, doesn't mean that I haven't been hollered at by out of shape men. Like, I remember this one guy years ago. We was in the pool, and he was just like trying to see what's up, and I'm like, no. But I appreciate the confidence. Like, I think confidence is amazing, right? But like the answer is no, right? But I think there was something about the confidence that made me even think, that made me even wonder, but I quickly snapped out of it, right? I was like, girl, bye, get the fuck out of my face, type of thing. But I think there's something to that, right? Like, I think sometimes people may get bored with the type of person that they've typically dated. And when someone completely out of the loop tries to holler, you're now thinking, well, maybe I should go ahead and try it out. Oh my gosh, but a couple of episodes, well, it was a while ago, I talked about this guy who, I guess, borderline sexually harassed me at work. I mean, I can laugh about it, right? Years ago. But anyway, this was earlier on in my teaching career, and he was just like a year or two older than me. So it wasn't like intimidation on the sense of him being in a powerful position or him being older, stuff like that. It wasn't those typical dynamics. It was just him being a man and him being large. Like, he was a large man. Like, he was a basketball shape. And I'm not even trying to shoot at him right now. I'm just literally describing him as best as I can. And if you know, you know. If I have any listeners listening right now who have worked with me in my earlier years of education, you know who the fuck I'm talking about, okay? But let's keep it at that. I mean, no ill will. I'm just telling my story. I'm not trying to, cancel him or whatever shit. Like, I wish him well. But anyway, this, we were young and, but nonetheless, I still felt uncomfortable and I spoke to him about it. And anyway, so what happened? So he was a very large guy. Like, he was wide and he would always give me these faces, y'all. Y'all, I can't believe some things I went through growing, like, in my earlier years, like my big girl job. Like, I would think to myself, like, is this acceptable? Like, is this okay? And I just didn't know, like, who to speak to about that. I just kind of figured it out on my own. And, you know, I'm glad nothing really, nothing detrimental happened, right? I wasn't raped. I wasn't coerced into doing anything that I didn't want to do or anything like that. And, you know, thankfully, him putting his hands on my shoulders was the only thing that he did to me, and that was enough. But it could have been worse, right? Anyway, so prior to that happening, he would always say these comments to me, like, just always like checking me up and down, like literally check, like up and down, literally looking. I'm not exaggerating. He will look me up and down and say comments like, that look good on you. I like that. Ooh, blue looks good on you. And like, he'll lick his lips. He'll smirk, not even smile. He'll smirk. And he would wear glasses. So sometimes I couldn't tell. And he was very, very dark skinned. Y'all, if you worked with me earlier on, you'll know who exactly I'm speaking of. But nonetheless, he wore these he's dark skinned and he wore these glasses. So sometimes I couldn't tell if he was even looking at me. It was just kind of hard. I'm not trying to be whatever. Anyway, so all those things combined into someone who I'm obviously not attracted to, right? It'll be one thing if I was kind of attracted to you and we were having this like dynamic, we were kind of flirting. No. It was not reciprocal at all. Like, there was nothing about my energy. I was giving him the idea or the green light for him to continue. Okay. So no, I did not give him any signs. I didn't wear my dress tight enough for his ass. No. There was nothing I did to warrant such behavior. Let's just stop there. But anyway, he was just very much someone who I was completely unattracted to. And I just think about how I don't think about it. I'm just bringing it up just for this purpose of the conversation here is like, what if I was to have given him play, right? What if I was to have, okay, let's go out. You know, let me see what you're about, right? I think that would just be based off of wanting to know what the other side was like, right? I think there is something to that. There's sometimes this curiosity that needs to be quenched for just seeing someone who you historically haven't been intimate with, and you want to see, hey, is the dick the same? But no, I never had that interest. Never had that interest with him. Not anybody. I'm just bringing it up right now for the purpose of the show, The White Lotus. So again, if that didn't convince you to watch The White Lotus, I don't know what will. Okay, let's continue with some more topics before we wrap it up. I want to discuss Deion Sanders real quick. Look, here's the thing. So a brief rundown, because it's been in the news for the past few days now. And I don't think he's made a statement since, but I would say, look, I understand how it may look, right? You have this black coach who promised and stood on this moral high ground of wanting to uplift an HBCU such as Jackson State University, in which he was the head coach for just 2 years. And just a couple of days ago or weeks ago, he left that position for another head coach position at the University of Colorado. Now this has stirred controversy because it seemed as if he was disingenuous with his intention at an HBCU, and that he really didn't care about just the overall morale in building that HBCU's football team and just the overall community and culture there when it comes to sports, when it comes to football specifically. Now, look, I'm not a football head. I am familiar with Deion Sanders, though. Not too much of his numbers or highlights or whatever the term is that is typically, I think it's highlights, typically used for like football players and athletes in general. But what I do remember about Deion Sanders, he had a reality show on VH1, and I used to watch it like years ago. It was when I was like a teenager. So I don't remember everything exactly, but it was when he was married to one of his ex-wives. Like he's been married a couple of times, and I remember the reality show that he had with he and his family. So that's pretty much the just gist of what I know about him, and I obviously know that he's a football player, a football star. Apparently he's really good, right? Like, I sound super ignorant, right? Apparently he's really good. I think he's a good player, right? Give him some credit, right? No, I heard he's really good. I do. Anyway, and that he would be a great example for these football players, these black football players at Jackson State University, and that he would have been just a great role model for them. Maybe some of these players didn't have father figures in their lives, and he could have taken upon some of those roles and responsibility. But I think that sounds good in theory, though, right? I think it sounds good. Wow, he was supposed to be the role model for my son whose father left him when he was 11, and you know, he promised to help raise my son into becoming a man, a respectable young man. And it's like, oh, he's a black man. He's supposed to look out for other black men. And look, I think all that sounds good in theory. And if you could do it, right? You know, open the door, lend a hand. But I think we have to also stop being selfish, right? Even though, like, he essentially was selfish in leaving, but I think there's some good selfishness and there's some negative selfishness that we all have. And when we impede on others' desire for moving forward with their careers, with their lives, then that's us being selfish. You know, that's us wanting to keep you and not let you explore new career opportunities. Like, we don't know this man's career aspirations or financial goals or financial status. Like, we don't know. Like, we could make the assumption that he's doing all right. But nonetheless, though, I think, you know me, like, if you want to leave that job, leave the job. And maybe he just saw it fit to move forward. Like, he did what he needed to do at Jackson State University, and he is now having an opportunity of a lifetime to work at a prestigious university such as the University of Colorado. Now, I'm not even familiar with the University of Colorado like that, so I don't know how prestigious it is, but I'm assuming it is. And it intrigued him enough to want to leave Jackson State University. Like, I don't know. I just feel like people are so quick to put on this moral hat. And going back to what I said in the last episode about this whole, like, Puritan mindset and approach to things, like, shut the fuck up. Like, let people just do what they feel is best for themselves. And if he felt like the 2 years that he spent at Jackson State University as the head coach was enough, and so it is. Like, all the black football players that was under his thumb, niggas will move on. Like, because ultimately, when is the right time, right? Like, when is the right time? Because it's always a cycle. When you are going through college, right, every 4 years, there's a new set of freshmen. There's a new set of sophomores that, you know, that may be transferred in. And, you know, there's a new set of students that are now going to experience you for the first time and may develop this strong attachment to you. What are you supposed to do? Never leave? Never fucking leave? No, you go. You go. You go. Like, I'm not your fucking father. Like, there's this argument that someone was saying about how, well, what about the promises that he made to these single mothers who entrusted him with their sons? What the fuck? So now Deion Sanders had to take on that burden because you decided to be or to have, a child with a man who was a deadbeat and decided not to do anything with your child, and now you're entrusting me with this responsibility because I'm Deion Sanders? Who the fuck? Like, what would you have done if I wasn't here? You would have figured it out. He was already figuring it out prior to my existence in his life, prior to my introduction in his life. Like, why is it all on his shoulders? Like, I don't like that pressure, dog. I don't like that. And it just reminds me of the time when I decided to leave my home church prior to me moving here to Houston. I decided to leave my home church because I just felt like it just wasn't growing. It was very stagnant, and there just wasn't enough participation from the young adults at the time. And I just felt like I was just moving just a ship by myself. And though there were some young adults who were a part of just a movement and moving forward and being just progressive, not progressive in the democratic sense, but like progressive in the way, like having new ideas, being refreshed, and just having a new approach to attract more people. Like there was a majority of elderly people. There is a majority of elderly people, just the older generation at the church, and we wanted to engage more young people to be active, to be a part of the church, to be members, all of these things. And it just felt like the same passion and intensity that I had for it wasn't received or reciprocated at all. And I also just wasn't getting fed. Like, I felt like spiritually I wasn't getting what I needed to grow, to be stronger, to be closer to God. And yes, your relationship with God is personal, but I think if you're a member of the church and the church is not at all aiding you in that, then what the fuck are we doing? So I made the hard decision to finally just go ahead and, say I'm done. And it was hard. It definitely was hard, but it was the best thing I needed to do for myself. But of course, when you do things for yourself, right, you have people who are just so like ridiculous in their views for you, in their expectations for you, right? They want you to live your life the way that they want you to live it. And I had close people in my life just being discouraging and negative and disapproving of my decision to leave. And I just felt so unsupported by some of the people in my life who was closest to me. And I just felt so hurt by that. Yet I still stood strong on what I wanted to do for myself. But there was just this lack of wanting to understand my perspective and wanting to understand why I would choose. Like they come from the mindset of you just stick in it. You just stick in it, right? Like they come from the mindset of like, even if you're in a marriage that is emotionally draining, sexually draining, like everything about the marriage is depleting you and your energy, they're the type of people that will say, just stay in it. You're married. You made the commitment. Fuck the commitment. What are you talking about? What? I'm about to commit. Like, like, what are we talking about? Like, I just think sometimes people don't have this idea of like realistic viewpoints, right? Like they just assume that you're just supposed to just chuck it up when now we're living in a day and age when mental health is the priority amongst all, okay? So regardless of what situation you're in, regardless of what job you have, regardless of relationship, what marriage, whatever it is, if it is draining you to the point that no matter what other avenues you exercise to help you relieve the stress, at the very least, of what you're experiencing in said situation, then you may have to evaluate your position here. You may have to evaluate the situation and see what could be done for you to get your peace back. And it's a hard decision, but I think ultimately you have to decide, whose life is this? Is this your brother's life? Is this your sister's life? Is this your mother's life? It's your life? Oh, it's your life. Right. So when you go to bed, you're with yourself. And when you wake up, you're with yourself, right? Okay, so what do you have to do then? What makes you happy? That's what you have to do, because what I'm not going to do is live a life for others. I'm not going to live a life for others. I'm not going to live to make you happy. Now, I do hope that I guess, a little part of me want some approval from some people. But even that, I'm trying to break away from that. But ultimately, I'm happy. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with the choices I make. I'm happy with where I am currently, mentally, emotionally, physically, romantically. I am happy. And I just know that some people will have these like naysayer reactions or thoughts when it comes to maybe some intimate details about my life. And I presume that because of just where I came from and just like this mindset of like this like puritanistic mindset. I guess it's a word of the day, huh? No, but I think also with that, you have to be mindful of who you disclose information to, how much you share, if you want to share, and go from there. But I think ultimately you have to really just live your life and do it unapologetically. And I think, that is the crux of this podcast. I started this podcast to really talk about me breaking away from the expectations of others and really standing 10 toes down into who I am, what I want, what I desire, what I need, what I want to explore, what I want to do. And I've been doing that. And shout out to Deion Sanders. But hey, I'm open to discuss other opinions on this. I don't think I'm always on, the right side of history sometimes, but I feel like ultimately he had to do what he had to do, and I support it. Like, nigga, fucking leave your job. Fuck those kids. Yo, I feel like sometimes my personality may be a little off-putting for some people who are not familiar with me and with the idea of someone like me. Like, I guess sometimes I may come off surprising. Like, every time I meet new people, they're always surprised with what I say. And I'm just like talking. Like, I'm not even trying to be a shock jock. I'm just talking. So it's so funny to see reactions like, what the fuck, nigga? What's up? What's up? What's up? All right, you guys, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for listening to another PODMAS episode. And I will check in with you guys next time. Goodbye.